Welcome to Just Break Up, the podcast about love, heartbreak, and all the relationship advice you don't want to hear. My name is Sierra DeMulder.
And I'm Sam Blackwell. And today we're going to answer a letter from somebody who is trying to hold on to the good things in her past relationship. But before we begin, we just want to give you our Surgeon General's warning, which is that Sierra and I are not licensed mental health practitioners.
No, we are not. We are not professionals in any way relating to relationships and advice. So please take our advice as you see fit. We're only here to offer our humble musings to hopefully shed some understanding and maybe some laughs about the incredibly rewarding but mostly confusing experience that is love. All right. Our letter today comes to us from 30-something flirty and on the way to thriving, whose pronouns are she, her, who is writing to us from Minnesota. Hi, Sam and Sierra, longtime listener, first-time submitter here. Embarrassed to say that despite this, I should have been following your advice more closely up until now, but if I had, I wouldn't be writing in right now. About 2 years ago, I met someone new, cis male, he, him, and we clicked pretty immediately. However, as is the case for many of us in our 30s, shit got complicated. The fact that he was in an open marriage and working out whether to stay with his wife was hidden from me, single, from the very beginning. By the time I found out the full story, I was bewitched by our connection and wanted to see where things would go. And not too long after that, I fell for this person, actually my first time fully falling in love, I believe. He broke things off with me in July, and I have a lot of feelings about our last interaction or interactions, but that would fill another submission entirely. Our last contact was in January. I know closure isn't ever guaranteed, but hoped he respected me enough to have a conversation after being actively in and out of each other's lives for a whole year before breaking things off, and he agreed to it. In our 10-minute conversation, I pressed him to say more than just, it's not you, it's me, essentially. It helped some, and after regular therapy, working through depression, unfortunately lots of psych med trial and error, I'm finally feeling over it, or at least angry / no longer sad, more like myself and ready to move on. My long-winded question is, for a long time, I was trying to hold on to the good things. Honestly, feeling very secure in our connection from the beginning, for months, feeling like my needs were met when we were together, at least initially, feeling desired, comfortable in my body, as body image has always been an issue for me, feeling in sync and like it might be possible to find a best friend-like relationship in a partner. Obviously not replacing my friends, but for the first time, I felt truly close to a partner in that way, while letting go of the bad. Later in our connection, when he was confused about what he should do, I felt more and more gaslit about our initial connection, despite him being the one who came back to me and broke no contact after, quote, working through things twice. Ultimately, I have come to feel like our initial connection was genuine, but that as things continued to evolve and nothing was definite, my anxious attachment was triggered and I didn't feel like / act like myself. Okay, so now for the actual question. I said I would be long-winded. Is it even possible or worthwhile to try to hold space for the good when this person really fucked with my head in the end? I felt the best I'd ever felt with a connection in the beginning, which kept me wanting more. I saw my vulnerability, confidence, and secure feeling as growth for so long, and now it's hard to not feel like I'm starting at zero again, or honestly in a negative, with so many areas of my life feeling broken after the mental health impact this had. Thank you for all that you do, 30-something.
All right, 30-something. Thank you so much for writing. I am so sorry that you went through such a shitty breakup with a person who treated you so poorly at the end. You know, breakups are never fun, but it's also can feel really destabilizing when you feel like you had such a beautiful, wonderful connection in the beginning and then find out, you know, that this man was lying to you about being in an open marriage and, you know, did things that were gaslighty to you towards the end and really put you in a state of a lot of depression and anxiety and confusion. And I'm also super proud of you for doing what you needed to do to help take care of yourself after the aftermath of this. I'm sorry that it was placed on you to have to deal with this because It sucks that the person who gets dumped is also the person who has to figure out how to put themselves back together, right? Like that is the inherent unfairness of the way that relationships sometimes end. But I'm proud of you for doing it and for accessing therapy and using meds to find a way back to a place where you feel like yourself again. And we picked this letter because we think that this is a really interesting question about whether or not you can hold the good of a relationship that overall was maybe kind of shitty, and how do you take what you learned from that relationship that made you feel good, that made you feel empowered and secure, and bring it into a new sort of iteration of your life. And we're going to get into some of that in just a minute, but before that, we're going to take a quick break.
All right, my darlings, welcome back, and a special welcome to our letter writer. Thank you so much for sharing this question with us. I love a good musing, and I think this is a great one, especially because it's going to be, personal to each of us, how we choose to hold on to our experiences, how we choose to see and carry our exes and our memories. So I'll just speak from my experience. I do think it's possible to like hold on to the good that existed in what was ultimately a bad situation, right? Or the wrong situation, let's say. But from my experience, I'll say this. I see now, like coming out of enough shitty relationships or coming out of enough growth or whatever, that two things are really valuable to me. In certain amounts. Anger. I think anger is a tool for us to use for ourselves in the beginning stages of a relationship and the healing process. And I'll get back to that in a second. And the second thing I know we all use, or at least it has been so instrumental in my life, is just time. And I know that's like the corniest of song lyrics. But I am able to access memories and process gratitude and reflection in such a more profound and useful way the farther I am from something. That's just the way I am. But going back to anger, like we tell a lot of our letter writers that like over romanticizing or just thinking about the good of a relationship after a breakup in which things weren't all like shiny and peachy will often, keep you in a mindset in which you don't allow yourself to want for more or dream for more or hold that person accountable. And when I say anger is important, I'm generally not a super angry person, even though I spent like the last episode just yelling. I'm not an angry person. I would rather things feel good than actually feel the anger that I have or like to actualize the injustice that I felt or whatever. But to me, in the early stages of a breakup, even in the first 6 months to a year, right, after a breakup like this, I think anger is important, not as a weapon to use against someone else, right? In this instance, anger isn't, I don't want you to be resentful to that person because that's like that's telling them that they owe you something. That's telling the universe that you're not complete because they took something from you. I think anger is important because it allows us to build whatever vehicle of healing we need to get the fuck out of the mind state that we are in when the breakup happens. Like anger, in my last breakup, I got dumped by somebody who had cheated on me multiple times. We were not in a good situation. I shouldn't have been there in the first place, but I really loved him. And I really even though it was so unhealthy, I didn't want us to break up. I wanted the good to be bigger than the bad. I wanted I wanted it to have value. And eventually, I think you told me, or whoever told me, like, allow yourself to be pissed. Allow yourself to flatten this person out into like a one-dimensional version of themselves. Because right now, recognizing all the good, missing all of the things that they brought to your life, it's not going to help you shift your perspective to like, this person doesn't want me in their life, and therefore I don't want them in mine. So anger is important because it allows you to shift your mindset. And then when you are far enough away from the place you were when you guys broke up or whatever, that's when I, and like me, now years out of that relationship, but even a couple years out of that relationship, a year out of it, I could hold on to the good because I was safely able to also hold the bad. I could say in the same breath that him and I didn't deserve each other. We didn't deserve how we treated each other. We deserved so much better. And also what kept my love for him, my unhealthy, sick love for him going for so long, was how seen he made me feel, how affirmed he made me feel, how I loved the energy he brought to our relationship. You know what I mean? Like, again, time just gives me I feel safe enough to learn from the pain that I experienced, really. And when you're safe enough to learn from the pain is when you're also safe enough to acknowledge the good.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's good to look back at our relationships and hold them with the complexity that they actually had, right? I know that this man treated you really shitty. I know that he lied to you about a lot of stuff. I know that he gaslit you towards the end of your relationship. And also, you felt good when you were with him. You felt seen by him. Exactly what Sierra said about her previous relationship. I think that that's really understandable. And I think that the question that you have is like, can I hold on to this, or like, is it worthwhile? And I think that that's an important question, which is, how are you using your understanding of these good moments in pursuit of something that's going to be affirming and fulfilling for you, right? Like Sierra said, using those good moments to convince yourself that you're still in love with him, to try and trick yourself into thinking that he could have been somebody who was good for you, if only, right? Or holding on to those good moments as a way to keep yourself from moving on, right? I'll never experience that again. It was only with him that I could find those good moments, right? Like, that doesn't feel super worthwhile or supportive of a future for you. But can you use those good moments as ways to help affirm what you want in future relationships, right? Can you say, it felt so good when I felt so seen by this person. I really want that in my future relationship. And I want it to be with somebody who is not lying to me about being in an open marriage, right? Or, right? Or, oh, I felt so seen. How wonderful is it to know that I can exist in the world and find people who are going to make me feel so loved in this way, right? I want to pursue that. It's worth fighting for to get to that. It's worth putting myself out there to find another way to feel that seen and affirmed by somebody, right? Like, then I think it's a great thing. It can be helpful to help us like move in the direction of what we actually want. And so I think it can be a hard road to walk to sort of like sit in between those two things and actually move towards actually using it as a way to move forward rather than a way to look back. But I do think that it's possible to do that. But like Sierra said, I think it definitely takes time. And, I look back at some of my worst relationships and I don't feel any good things for them. And sometimes I wish that I would, because it's like, well, I was in that relationship for a reason, right? Like, this person had to be doing something good for me, but it's sometimes really difficult to access that. So, I love the idea that you're trying to sit here being like, I'm trying to hold this person in their true complexity. And I think that can be helpful. But like Sierra said, sometimes it can also be helpful to be like, no, that dude is a fucking asshole. I'm glad that I'm not with him, right? Like, use that anger to help put distance between you two.
I think let's break down your question. Is it possible to have good feelings and bad feelings about someone at the same time? Yes.
100%. Yes, absolutely.
It is possible to feel more than one feeling at once. It's possible to feel conflicting things at the same time. That is what it is to be human. That is what our bodies are capable of. And the request of ourselves to feel cleanly delegated emotions. You know, all exes are assholes. All current partners are the best thing in the world is just not a reality. And that's what gets us stuck in other relationships. Oh, you have a good relationship with your ex. You're still in love with them. Oh, you still,
Sure.
you know, you are still heartbroken over a breakup that happened 5 years ago. Oh, you're not ready to move on. That's not true. We're capable of feeling multiple things at the same time. And I think what I want to communicate is that we often put the experiences that we have in relationships on that person, right? But I also want us to acknowledge, like, you were in that relationship too, and you contributed to the things, the undoing, which is fine. We all do that. But you also contributed to what made you feel great. I want you to say, like, this man is not the only orchestrator of secure relationships, right? This man is not the only person out there that can make me feel confident in my body. I felt those things too. And I can find other people who help me foster that in myself, right? That's truly, like, maybe the sassiest thing I'm going to say today is that, like, the stuff you experience with that man is not unique to him, right? It might be unique to your dating experience, but it is not unique to people out there, right? So I'm confident you can find it again, especially if you don't put him on that pedestal of thinking like he is the arbiter of this feeling of security. He's not. You created that too.
Absolutely. You did it. Yeah. You did it through your vulnerability. You did it through your confidence. You did it through your security,
and your availability, right? Like,
absolutely.
You were probably more available to all of these feelings than he was, right?
For sure. Absolutely. And I think that as you move forward into relationships, that experience of being able to show vulnerability in a relationship, of having confidence in it, is actually going to serve you in future relationships. You know, I think it's sometimes we can look at that situation and be like, oh, this person stripped me of that, right? Like the vulnerability made me vulnerable to them. My confidence was misplaced and I should have known better, right? And that's not actually what happened. Like, your confidence, your vulnerability didn't hurt you. The person hurt you. And there are people out there that are going to look at that vulnerability, look at that confidence and say, oh, that is something worth tending to, right? That is something worth treating with kindness and respect and love. And I'm sorry that this man didn't do it, but I also don't want you to think that he somehow, like Sierra said, like that somehow he was the only place where that could happen, right? You actually created the conditions for you to be seen and loved by this person, right? And you can do that with someone else who's worth it.
He was never fully in it.
Yeah.
Right?
No,
so
absolutely.
Imagine what you could create with somebody who was in it with you.
For
right?
sure. For sure. Absolutely. Absolutely. So yeah, I think that it's important to look at our relationships in our past and find the things that were working well for us so that we can pursue those things in other relationships, right? Like, let's not throw out what we've learned about what feels good just because at one point it felt bad. And we don't want to over romanticize our past relationships and say, this is the only time I'll ever feel this. This is the only person who can make me feel this way, because that's not true. And you deserve somebody who is going to be able to contribute to you feeling confident and sexy and taken care of and all of those good things. And that person will exist, right? But
it's always a yes and.
Absolutely.
It's always this person was bad for me, and at times they made me feel really special. Like in my life, I look back at my relationships and say, this relationship was so good for me. This person is so deserving of great love, and I'm not the person who's meant to give it to them. You know, me and my ex, our relationship was so toxic and so unhealthy, but we were really trying to hold on to what was truly good there, but we didn't deserve each other. You know, like it's two things can be true at the same time.
We love you so, so much. We are so proud of you for moving on and being so kind to yourself and kind to this man who treated you so poorly, right? And we also...
Yeah, no, it's true.
We know that there is love out there that is going to be able to receive all of your vulnerability, all of your confidence, all of your security, and treat it with the kindness and respect that it deserves.
Yeah, totally.
Thank you so much
All
for
right, my
writing.
darling. We love you.
We hope this helps.
All right, pals, it's Friday, which brings us to the blind date segment of our show. Every week, we like to shout out something that we love that we want to set you up with. And this week, we are sending you home with...
I'm sending you home with a skincare product. Absolutely. It is Kiehl's Ultra Facial Overnight Rehydrating Mask with 10.5% squalane.
Girl, you bougie.
Absolutely. Yeah, I got this stuff recently. I went into a Sephora, which was a terrible idea because I walked out of that Sephora with less money in my bank account. Yeah, absolutely. Anyway, so this is like a face mask that you put on at night. And it has been amazing. I do it like a couple nights a week because I feel like if I did it too much, it would be or if I did it more often, it would be too much. But it makes my skin feel like hydrated without feeling greasy. Like it's like when I wake up in the morning and I touch it, my skin is like soft, which is like not something that I like normally experience in my life. And especially with the upcoming winter and all of the dry air that's going to be happening inside and outside of my house, I'm really thinking about how do I make sure that my skin doesn't get dehydrated. And this product really seems to work. Like I've actually seen noticeable results in my face, which is amazing.
That's real.
And like, what else can we ask for? You know, and also to be clear, I'm not being paid by these people.
That is all we can ask for.
Yes, like I literally just like went to the store and picked this up and was like, oh, this is great. I love this. So if you are somebody like me who has like dry-ish skin, but not like crazy dry skin, who needs like a boost of moisture a couple nights a week, I would definitely recommend it. Again, it's Kiehl's Ultra Facial Overnight Rehydrating Mask. Obviously, you can pick it up at Sephora or wherever you might get Kiehl's stuff. There's like a Kiehl's store in the Minneapolis airport if you find yourself there. But anyway. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for listening. If you would like more content from us or if you would like access to our monthly office hours, you can support us on Patreon. If you support us on Patreon for as little as $5 a month, you'll get an additional bonus weekly episode, as well as access to all of our backlog of Patreon episodes. So go check those out. Patreon.com/justbreakuppod.
You can slide into our DMs, send us your favorite relationship memes, but most importantly, you can submit your questions about all matters of the heart at justbreakuppod.com, which is also where you can find our merchandise, whatever's left of it.
Please remember to like, follow, subscribe, give us a 5-star rating and review. This literally keeps our mics on and helps us reach more brokenhearted souls who need 2 random strangers giving them relationship advice.
Just Break Up is a production of Duvid Media, original music recording, editing, producing all magical things by our good friend Spencer Worth Davis. Make sure to check out his podcasts and his music. And remember, it's possible to feel more than one conflicting emotion at the same time. That is the human experience. That's what makes our hearts feel pulled and pushed in different directions. Our brain is telling us one thing, our heart is reminding us another, and guess what? They're both right. That's your superpower. That's your superhuman power right there, is acknowledging that you can feel more than one thing at the same time. And if all else fails,
just break up.